Not a lot going on. Had a nice meeting this morning with Assemblyman Will Barclay of Oswego County, who's making a tour of this area in advance of an expected announcement for the soon-to-be vacant Senate seat. So obviously that's no surprise politically. I think everyone anticipated that he was indeed very interested. So we'll see how all of that shakes out in the very near future. What else is going on? That's about it. The fallout continues after the announced plan to resign by Senator James Wright. And really the focus shifts now away from Senator Wright and on to who might replace him. And it's funny in politics, when you say you're not running, all of a sudden everything shifts to something else. And that's just what's happening now. The question is, will Assemblyman Darrel Aubertine run? Widely thought he might. His assembly district is coterminous with much of the Senate district in the Watertown to Ogdensburg area. And he really, because it's a special election midterm, if he lost it, he'd still be in the assembly, as would Mr. Barclay if he does indeed choose to move ahead with that, as it certainly looks like he will at this time, with an announcement expected tomorrow on that. So we're going to have to just wait and see. Media insiders tell me that this story was known to members of the local media about the resignation prior to when it broke in out-of-town media on Tuesday morning. And they agreed to hold it. And they ended up having to hold it until everybody else had it. So it just, again, shows how fast new media travels. Blogs and internet websites and all of that chatter, once a story breaks, it just travels like wildfire. But I had that word came to me from one of the key Capitol reporters who I email with once in a while. And she said that, indeed, this had been known to media people up here, but they chose not to report it, which struck me as strange.
I wanted to talk about the Jim Wright thing, throw my 2 cents in, which will probably turn off a lot of people immediately. But a couple of comments. First of all, I wish him good luck in his new career, and apparently it's, quote, money-driven, opportunity that he could not pass up on.
Right.
I always thought he wanted to serve the state, wants to serve higher interests, but that's Jim's, that's his decision. I guess he served long enough in the Senate, he wants to move on. But the thing with the Barclay, people should see this coming. They should have seen it coming. Now they're saying that it's, his seat is his dad's seat, 8 generations of Barclays. Look, people just, God, this stuff like this drives me nuts. And it probably shouldn't. This is not a Barclay seat. I know that sounds corny, it sounds naive, it sounds, whatever you want to call it. But this seat doesn't belong to the Barclay family. He's going to, he can run, that's fine, that's his right, that's his prerogative. But, we just got to get away from saying that he's a shoe-in, it's a coronation, it's getting back into the seat now. Barclay family, the seat should go with a good, fair, open election to the person with the best leadership abilities to represent this district.
And who would that be?
Well, I don't know. It depends on who's running, right?
Well, Danny, I agree with you. It shouldn't be a coronation. There is in this country a history of families doing this, the Bushes and Clintons and the Roosevelts, and it goes on and on. There's always these political families, and certainly the Barclays are among those.
I don't deny that, Jeff, at all. And I know it's real, it's realistic, it's out there. I understand that. Even if it's only one voice in a wilderness such as myself, I just think that those things are not right. They can run, that's fine. That's their prerogative, they're eligible, they're qualified, whatever.
Well, here's the situation with a seat like this. And I'll be candid because obviously I have some familiarity with statewide politics. This is not something where Joe Citizen gets to run for this seat in either party. I've read some of the blogs, Ford's blog and so on, talking about, well, maybe Addie Jennings should run, or maybe Carl Williams, or maybe none of those people get to run seriously because they won't have the money support. It's going to take a lot of money to run this race. It's a multi-million-dollar Senate race if it's contested.
And of course, the incumbents that people are talking about, or even three incumbents, I guess, are really talking about.
Well, Scozzafava is not going to run.
Who's that?
Scozzafava is. They're not going to give her the Republican line.
I'm just saying they would. A serious talk about three. They've got their incumbent machines, and that makes a lot of difference. But I'm just saying, naive as that may sound, that's not the way to do it.
Even those incumbent machines, I read in the paper this morning, each of them has maybe 20, 30,000 in their, quote, war chest.
Yeah.
This is something where, in the case of the Democrats, they're talking about dropping $2 million on Aubertine if he runs. I assume the Republicans would be able to do the same.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to state my views. I think the people are more tuned into nowadays, saying maybe we should try some new people, try to open up the process. That's what it's supposed to be. But they're talking about a short window now of having an election in February.
Well, if it's February 5th, as is widely speculated, I mean, really, that's up to the governor. He cannot call a special election until the vacancy occurs, and Wright has said that he's going to end his tenure on the 31st of this month. So. The earliest the governor could call the election would be around the 1st, and it has to be within 40 days of when he calls it. So I think they're going to try to do it on February 5th to try to take advantage of higher turnout due to the primary, even though there's logistical problems with that. And I don't know. I mean, it really comes down to one thing. If it's Barclay versus Aubertine, then I think it'll be a race because it'll be funded heavily on the Democratic side. If it's anybody else, it's not really even a race.
Well, I just want to put my 2 cents out there. I just think that I think there's some better choices between the two. They're probably doing good jobs in the Assembly. I think they probably should just stay in the Assembly, continue to do the good job that they're doing.
Well, I think they are both. And the thing is, you meet these folks, and I've had the good fortune of meeting a lot of them, and they are decent people, and they're bright people, and I think they really enjoy being involved. I mean, the fact that somebody comes from a famous family, while it shouldn't guarantee him a seat, it shouldn't also be held against him.
I want to put my 2 cents in, that's all.
All right, well, thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. Yeah. Haven't heard from Danny Francis in a while. But that's the hard reality of it. It's, it could be a very competitive race. It could be, as I said to you before, it plays out on a larger stage. It's part of an overall drama going on in New York State over control of the state Senate. And that's why there's so much interest in it. And frankly, Democrats will tell you if it's Aubertine, they'll get behind it and fund it. If it isn't, they won't. And there'll probably be a candidate, but it'll be more of a placeholder candidate. On the Republican side, obviously Barclay's the clear favorite and has the support of the establishment, a lot of media backing and all of that. And, certainly in his case, the political traction of his family doesn't hurt. His dad was well-known, well-respected back when he was in office. So it's a lot of different things to consider in it. And, it's really going to play out over the next few days and weeks. And what would have been a very sleepy Christmas season politically, all of a sudden becomes high drama, at least for those who are members of, like me, members of the chattering class, the political class of people, the people who actually get into all of this. For most people, it'll just be a joyous Christmas with their families. But for those of us who are political gadflies, hangers-on, chatterers, whatever, it'll be a busy season wondering who's running for what and all of that. I would only say one thing, and I don't mean this as a disparaging thing towards any of the candidates because they are all good. Whatever you think of Jim Wright, he was from Watertown. He had traction in Albany, muscle, and he did do a good job representing the city and its interest. And I think that you lose some of that personal involvement, momentum, and seniority with anybody you put in, but that happens in Albany. I mean, seats do change. So, a lot of times the status quo is quite comfortable and so on, but on the other hand, changing things and a new face in there isn't a bad thing at all either. And it looks like, certainly from the listed candidates, they're all people who have a little bit of Albany experience. Good afternoon, Hotline.